a piece, so pull up with friends. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. SWorkshop, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel it how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. And SWorkshop, what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works, social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, but we call it SWorkshop. Action on Taylor, the killer verses. I do on my feet, my city hurt. They killing our babies, this work going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Private schools for the kids. We the city, yeah, we lit it. All I know is it's work. Work hard, keep it busy. Know the life keep it tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. SWorkshop handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works.
Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't for the none. We came in the party, we in for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Sky is the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, SWorkshop, do your thing. SWorkshop, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. SWorkshop, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. SWorkshop, show some love.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works. Social works, 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 yeah.
SWorkshops are a series of online workshops featuring the many incredibly talented friends of SocialWorks. This series aims to inspire and educate, bringing local and national creatives live to your smartphone. They will be sharing and teaching specific aspects of their craft. A wide variety of professions, interests, and hobbies are represented within our curriculum. Did we mention it's a fundraiser too? The stay-at-home notice has students wondering what's to come. For some, graduation and prom will both be canceled. This campaign will directly fundraise a celebration event for those students within the Chicagoland area. Once it's safe, of course. Tune in to any of our socials for one or all of the SWorkshops. You can find the full schedule of programming at socialworksshy.org or on our Instagram. Classes start Monday, April 13th. We'll see you there.
Hey, good morning, y'all. My name is Kahari, and I am doing a presentation basically about bike riding on the south and west sides of Chicago. I am a native Chicagoan. I grew up on the southeast side where we are very close to the lake. Spent a lot of time outdoors growing up as a kid. This is Chicago, so of course most of the majority of the time I spent, hooping or playing basketball, and being outside and being outdoors was always very important. I think I've went through a gambit of different sports, and of course, as I am not a professional athlete, I think my commitment to exercise or to being outdoors is usually more about trying to stay sane or trying to stay healthy to some extent. So the reason why I was excited to do this workshop in particular is because I've been fielding a lot of questions via IG or via my DMs, particularly because so many people are interested into getting into bike riding right now. So whether it might be, purchasing their first bike or questions about how to get the bike that they have up and rolling. So I myself, probably my origin story, I think, with bikes, of course, as many of us have, is it's a childhood toy. It's like a thing that we used, just to have fun. You might ride it up and down the block or around the block a few times, and you come back, whatever that might look like. But one thing that was really exciting to me in my earlier 20s, and even sometimes in my teen, I had a good friend named Yazir, who his pops was a really big cyclist, and so we would always see him coming to and from with the whole little kit with some, the shoes, and he would have just looking crazy, but the gear of cyclists basically. So I think later on in my early 20s, I got really plugged into a group of young Black men who were connected to an organization called Blackstone Bicycle Works. So while at this organization, many of the kids were learning bike mechanics. They were working as couriers, doing delivery work. But one of the craziest things to me was, in the free time and in the off time, we spent a lot of time just riding around the city. And I don't think it wasn't a typical sight to see, 20 young Black men riding in a group to downtown, or at some points, taking it as far as going south on the Wolf Lake Trail to Gary, Indiana, or going up north to Rogers Park. So it became this very cool way of finding independence and being able to move about in a city that is oftentimes extremely segregated. So yeah, we use the bikes, I think, to explore and to an adventure, as well as people were figuring out ways to also make money with their love and with their passion. I think for me, this grew and continued to be something I was really passionate about, something that particularly in times where I was like, stuck in the crib, I had no money, I was maybe, super depressed or low. It was a way that helped to continue to inspire me to get out and about and, keep rolling, keep it moving. So I'm very grateful for bikes for that. I think I later went on to get involved in a lot of different of the community organizations that were doing things around bikes. I found many of these times that we would go on these group rides to be like one of the most exciting things I had ever done. And that became something I was super geeked about, putting together these rides or, going to work on our bikes together, whatever that might be. So I think group rides was a thing that always stuck to me outside of commuting consistently. For the past, I would say 3 to 4 years, have been commuting kind of all year round to some extent. And my homie asked me, he was like, "You must be a environmental activist. Like, is this some type of larger mission you have?" And I would explain to him like, "No, not really. At the time, I just didn't have no money, and it was helpful having a way around, having to pay for transportation, whatever that might be." So this later went on to be inspired by a big homie and big sister of mine, Taryn Randall, who kind of had a bunch of ideas of trying to make an organization that was based in encouraging more, Black and brown people to get on bikes and to ride bikes. So the organization that I really, really want to uplift and point out today is called Two Guides. And I think in 2017 is kind of when a lot of that came together, and people got really excited about trying to make sure that we're also throwing events or doing programming around Black and brown cyclists in Chicago, knowing that it's not just wealthy white dudes on these really expensive bikes, but really the bike was just like this kind of symbol of like, this thing that it didn't cost money to do. There was a low barrier to get into it. There was a lot of mobility by your own power. So we put together a bunch of different rides, exploring different routes or going to different places. We also were able to put together some programming led by De France, who I would probably say is our true leader. Yeah, I think we've done some cool things with that piece. But coming up, also we have some ideas around trying to make some do-it-yourself mechanics available. So definitely following that Instagram, definitely following a bunch of the new resources and programming coming out there is a place I will point you to. So I'm gonna get out of talking about myself and get into my next slide. So three quotes that I think are always resonate with me and always stick to me. As I mentioned, my connection to bikes is not 100% just about the environmental um, repercussions of riding in a car and the gas emissions or trying to lower my carbon footprint. For me, it isn't really always that deep. I think those are some of the really cool things, and those might be some reasons that other people are really passionate about it. But for me, man, it's just cheap. There was a study that I saw from some I really love bikes type dude on a TED talk where he was saying that your average driver spends about $10,000 a year on driving and owning a car, whether that be just the cost of the car or whether it's car insurance or all the things you might spend. So the comparative was, as a cyclist, you only might spend about $300 a year. So that's obviously, the piece around bikes being good for your wallet. I say that bikes are good for your body and your mind also, mainly because they can help prevent so many of the sedentary lifestyle diseases or struggles and trouble that we have. So, I've heard, some success stories of people with Parkinson's, for example, or whether that might be you having respiratory issues, or even depending on whatever, as I mentioned, like mental health issues and, depression or anxiety. A lot of these things help me personally, and then a lot of people I know. And it really is just as simple as like getting outside and hopping on that bike. And it's a lazy man activity in a lot of ways as well. In a way that maybe running or going to go hoop or participating in some organized sport, you have to do so many other steps where just hopping on your bike and going for a cruise can be really, really accessible and really easy. See if I'm missing anything. My reasoning also is not completely political, even though I'm sure there are, politics involved. A lot of people, a lot of socialists and communists have these connections to bike and bike culture for some reason. And I think that there are a lot of people that, would say it's this tool for revolution or whatever this might be. I'm excited to learn more about those things, but my reasonings aren't completely around that. Even though I have heard a really cool idea that everything we do as Black people, since the time that we were brought here to America in enslavement, is always about being tied and entrapped in this system of capitalism. Which they were saying that the bike is the one and kind of only thing where you are not tied to these things. And the artist Colleen Smith, who I'm a huge fan of and is also a cyclist, has this bit called the Bicycle Manifesto, where it gets very, very political about the reasons in which you could ride. So I think a lot of the work that the Tool of Gods is up to, hopefully we will try and put out some more of those statements, if we will. So to go to my next slide. I always, when people hit me, first start with the fact that you have to get a bike. I do wish that that it was much easier to get a bike, and I think the one thing for people that are interested in, not necessarily investing a lot of money up front, I will say that this is Chicago, so we have a really, really big bike share program that the city of Chicago, kind of controversially, honestly, has put so much money into, upwards of like I think $65 million or something like this. That the deal or the contract is that they will make that money back based on people using the bike share. Now that may not be true, and there was a competitor that like maybe also offered the same type of a deal, but at 40% less. And shit, while we got it, we might as well use some of these bike shares. I from time to time, have used the divvies, and particularly if I don't have my bike or it's not with me, I'll just hop on one of those, and I really like them from time to time. The other really cool thing about it right now is that they lowered it to $50 for the whole year, due to the pandemic and people kind of having fears and scare around getting on public transportation or hopping in Ubers or the car share systems that we maybe usually use. So that is a cool perk right now. Yeah, you can hop on those divvies for a pretty affordable cost. So I do recommend taking advantage of some of those bike share systems, particularly if you Google them and they're close to maybe where you live. As far as getting into some of the other shops that exist, this slideshow has 8 different shops that are up and running to some extent. So I know my boy Chris over at Small Shop Cycles is doing appointment only. So meaning you will have to go either on his Instagram page or his website, and you would set up some time that you would make it into the shop. And they particularly could have a lot of the things if you just go and pick up an order. They will have those things either ready for you to pick them up, and or you could drop off a bike for repair, and or if you're looking to get a new bike, you could request for that bike to be ready, and you could maybe go take a test ride. I don't think that is how everyone is operating for the most part, but Small Shop on 43rd and Cottage Grove is my local bike shop. Whereas for the Pilsen area, y'all got Wheel of Time, as well as y'all have Working Bikes. I guess the two distinctions I would maybe make in buying a bike for the first time is that you can always opt for used bicycles as opposed to new bicycles. This is maybe where some of those environmental pieces come in, of you being interested in reusing. Bikes are super sustainable. I have this bet that one of the bikes I have, which I named Sushi Roll, is going to be with me until I'm 75. So, I am currently 26, and we got some time to go. But I do think used bikes are an amazing way to also invest and put that money back into people that are doing a bunch of really good work. So on this list, Working Bikes refurbishes used bikes, as well as the Recycling Collective, which is for everybody up in Rogers Park, as well as Westtown, Blackstone, and Small Shop, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, any of these, I guess I could name the neighborhoods that these are all in. Comrade is in Westtown. Again, Wheel of Time is Pilsen. Small Shop is Bronzeville. Beverly, that's for everybody out south if you need hundreds, whatever that might be. Blackstone is for Woodlawn. Westtown is Ukrainian Village, and or I would always call that Humble Park. And yeah, there we go. So if I was to give y'all some estimates of how much bikes cost off top, I think you could almost find a bike really, if you were just on Craigslist or something like this, for under $100. Whereas if you went to a shop where they were selling used bikes, they're going to be built a lot better, and they might have modifications and specifications you might like in particular. I think you're probably going to be looking at like 150. Whereas if you were to go get a brand new bike, I would say $300 is a really good ballpark for you to spend. And again, as we learned in the TED Talk, $300 to $10,000 is big difference. So I do think even if it's an investment you'll probably use for a long time, and or you could also resell it. So cool. I hope that was helpful in relation to finding a bike for the first time. And I think next I will probably get into some of the gear or the steps if you got a bike. What do you do next? So these are 6 different slides of a bunch of the gear you could invest in. On this slide, we have a bike lock. We have a basket or a crate. This is an image of somebody fixing the flat. I couldn't find no black dudes on this, but we're gonna have to just make a Google image and put it back up. There's some lights, a vest, and a helmet. A lot of the reason why these are important is because once you invest that money, I think you also want to make sure that you have gear to help make your ride as pleasant as it can be. So shorts is another one that I like to wear a lot. Usually I rock some shorts under my pants or whatever it might be. If you're going pretty far distances, and or if you just don't want your butt to be sore. A lot of people assume that you should get a fatter seat. And I know my mom used to like to rock it like that, but it actually has been shown that hurts your sit bones even more than if you had a seat that was a little bit more narrow and visually might look like it's uncomfortable. But of course, you want that bike lock. If you spend that $300 to that $150, bike theft is unfortunately a big part of sometimes being a cyclist or a bike rider. So protect your neck and lock up your bike. The basket and or crate is really helpful if you are traveling with things. There are a lot of different mutual aid projects going on across the city where people are interested in getting more deliverers. I mentioned some of the bike delivery or courier work that a lot of people, a lot of my homies still do to this day and are currently doing. But if you have a basket on your bike, you might be able to be of help and also helping to transport things for other people. There's a lot of people that could use resources and or packets of sorts right now. So yeah, get yourself a basket, a little crate. You also throw your backpack in there if you don't want it on your back as you ride. Learning how to fix a flat, essential. I got a flat the other day in a very untimely position, but thankfully I had a tube as well as I had some tire levers and I had a hand pump. So that allowed me, I was on 43rd and King Drive. headed north, and I pulled to the side and took about 5 minutes to take out the tube that was currently in my bike, uh, replace it with the tube I had, and then pump it back up and put my tire back on and then keep rolling. Whereas if you aren't prepared for a moment like that, the emergency you might need to take is to call somebody to come pick you up, or maybe you put your bike in an Uber, something like that. Next up is lights. Lights is super important because it gets dark, and when it gets dark, you are not only harder to see, um, which is the reason why cars have front and rear lights, but also for your own vision. So on the south and west sides, we for some reason don't have streets that are as cared for as maybe if we were in a in a in the more prevalently white or cyclist heavy neighborhoods. So something like the Hipster Highway, Milwaukee Avenue is usually always taken care of and paved, and there's not a lot of potholes. Whereas a lot of neighborhoods that I commute in or my homies commute in, oftentimes we got to stay pretty vigilant about looking out for potholes, looking out for glass, because those things can also create flats. So the light is helpful, particularly at night, in order to see those things. The vest is kind of corny, but I think bright colors at the end of the day are always going to be your friend. You just want to be recognizable on the street. And as we share, the road with motorists, bright colors are your friend for sure. And then shout out to that helmet. The helmet helps to prevent a lot of very traumatic brain injuries that sometimes can happen in accidents due to dangerous drivers and or dangerous cyclists. So that's a bit on the gear. Like anything, it's something you could pour excess amounts of dollars into. When oftentimes I really just will grab the divvy, and I don't have a helmet, I don't have anything else, but it'll get me from point A to B. And there's a rack on the front of that, so you could always throw it right on into the divvy. My next slide is getting into the fact that a lot of people have questions of safety when it comes to riding bikes. I think oftentimes I have heard that people are scared about, what if I get hit, or I'm in a neighborhood where people aren't used to seeing people on bikes. But I will say that I think bikes can honestly be really safe, and in particular, if you're talking about traversing neighborhoods that you might feel some type of way about getting on public transportation, or sometimes some of my homegirls that they don't want to get in Ubers with random people. They think they say that the bike is honestly a much better option. So I think I would probably uplift that I feel super safe moving about on a bike in the majority of my life. No matter what the neighborhood is, I spend a bunch of times biking through Inglewood or North Lawndale or Austin or Southeast Side Alphabet Town, or whatever it might be. Honestly, I probably wouldn't feel as safe walking, but when I'm on my bike, I usually feel some type of ability to get out the jam or go about my business. Maybe it's just because of my ability to move faster, or maybe it also could just be that with the bike you are very able, and your power is from you. You don't have to wait on a ride. You don't have to wait on a bus that might not come or whatever that might be. So another thing that I put on here is that bikes are safe for everybody, no matter your age, your gender, your weight, or your ability. I stole this again from Colleen Smith's Bicycle Manifesto. But I think the thing that she was getting at in particular was that the bike doesn't really discriminate as much as many other things might. Of course, we all assume for it to be a thing that we only did as kids. But I know a older gentleman whose name was Tommy that rode his bike literally into the day that he passed. And he also, was a much heavier dude. Some of my homies that ride, uh, there isn't like this like body type or this body frame that you might think. And as far as ability goes, there's also a lot of different kinds of bikes. So maybe the one bike that we know of, which requires two able legs, may not be the only bike that exists. I see a lot of people sometimes with bikes that they are pedaling by their hands or other things. So yeah, bikes get cool in terms of not also only being for a certain type of able-bodiedness. Lastly, I think it was the first point, which is that, yeah, bikes should not be blamed for the conduct of cars. There are a lot of ways you can try and stay safer while you're on your bike, whether that is using your hand signals to signal which way you might be turning, which way you might be going, if you're stopping, are very helpful. And you can kind of, look up some bike safety rules around that, as well as how to pass. So sometimes people say, you should always pass on the left of cars. I think it's really based on experience. I've gotten into a few accidents, and usually they are because it's a motorist or someone that's driving that might be texting at the time, not paying attention. They backed out. They didn't see me coming. So I think you got to just stay hyper aware as a cyclist. But I think oftentimes we kind of get blamed for really just the conduct of very bad drivers. And for all you very bad bikers or very bad cyclists, we hope that you do better. Stop making a bad name for us. We try to make friends out on them streets. So I think I see a few questions that I might answer real quick. That's related to what advice do you have to navigate a ton of potholes? What up, Myra? What it do? And I would say you just got to swerve. You got to get up out that jam. If you're really slick, you might be able to, pull up and do a little bunny hop over the pothole. But if not, that's the case. Yeah, just make sure you got a light. If it's nighttime and if it's the daytime, make sure that you are pivoting between looking in front of you, 20 feet ahead of you or something like that. And then also immediately right on the ground. My boy Malachi said, what are the streets to be extra conscious of riding throughout the city? I feel like I have favorite streets, but I don't really have any that are necessarily ones that I'm like mad scared about riding down or like, I don't know. I think if not King Drive, the Lake Shore is like insanely beautiful. And if you haven't had time, I know it's closed down right now due to the pandemic, but there's been a petition, I think, to open them up. And I also seen something recently where they're talking about opening up state parks and some of our natural spaces. So if you can, yeah, try and also. Oh, the Chicago Reader has it's called the Mellow Bike Ride Route, something like this, and that's really helpful, particularly if you're trying to figure out good routes to ride on. I would refer to that. So yeah, Chicago Reader Mellow Bike Routes, and then also 2 guys. Yeah, follow 2 guys. There are a lot of routes that the homies are working on. We spent some time, trying to put together these group rides, but I think we might put them out as individual rides for people to take, due to the fact that right now there's a lot of kind of myths around the fact that biking is COVID proof or something like this, whereas that's not completely true. And I think it's, even if there was a cyclist going in front of you, or say if I'm riding my bike and you're behind me, we'd almost need like 30 feet away from each other for a sneeze or a cough or some breathing that I might put in the air that you could, ride through and immediately, also take in. So, yeah, trying to dispel some of those myths. I think we also got to be careful right now when out riding through the world and through the city. one other question that was related to bike shops is someone said Walmart or Dick's Sporting Goods to start out with. Um, if that's what's near you, if that's what's close, I think those are really big corporations, and a lot of the people that I know in the city that do a lot for everybody that's riding bikes, they also own bike shops. So I will refer to that slide with the 8 bike shops that are open for appointment and or pickup right now in the city. I'm gonna slide and see if I got one more slide, but that slide could be my questions and answers. So if you are tuned in and you are watching, uh, make sure to join us on Slido. I got a little true false questions that I would love to do, and yeah, that is about it. I'm gonna answer these 2 last questions. Does it matter what brand or bike you get to ride on a path? This is a good question because I think it's an easy thing to get caught up on, like anything. So that it can also be hard if you're like getting into it for the first time. But I feel like the thing that maybe more matters is what type of bike you're riding. There's a lot of specific bikes for specific types of terrain. So if you are just riding on a city street, you might just need a road bike, or you might just need a single speed. And whereas if you were trying to do more like some off road, riding in the grass, riding in the hills, or something like that, you might want one of the bikes that my boy LeBron rides. So like the mountain bikes or the cross bikes that have a lot chunkier of tires. Yeah, I think the kind of bike you choose might matter more than the brand of bike. How safe is it to ride with kids? This is one that I feel like I wouldn't advocate too much, because I think, yeah, they're your children, and I would hope that you would make the decision that is for the best of safety. I feel like I am excited sometimes to ride with kids, but I would maybe choose whether it might be a trailer or if they were literally right on the back of me or right in the front of me. Um, and depending on how confident I am, I would only make that decision for myself. I wouldn't tell anybody else. It can be dangerous, and obviously, I love children. I would never want to do anything that would hurt or harm them. So, um, uh, one other question. Before I guess I got some time. Follow up. How has riding your bike during the quarantine impacted your mental wellness during the pandemic? Whew. These times are hard for everybody. And I think riding my bike, as well as a lot of the people that I know who have been going out to ride their bikes, it's been helpful in the fact that our worlds are really can be smaller or tinier than they used to be. It's helpful for me to get out on my bike and or just go outside every day. One of my favorite Gucci Man interviews, he says how being incarcerated or being locked up, he stopped taking the ability to go outside for granted. And there's so many things, spending time outside, and not even to make it on some like nature or nature obsessed type you dig, but it just improves everything. I think your ability to focus, your ability to find calmness, your ability to yeah, I don't know, man. There's like a lot of scientific studies that I've seen, but it's good for you. You'll be happier, right? And it's super fun. I think that again, the two main things that keep me biking is it's cheap, and it is super fun. I can't be mad when I'm riding a bike. I let go of a lot of things when I get the chance to do that. Cool. If y'all are on Slido, my boy Chris Burnett said, "How do you feel about the lack of bike lanes in Black neighborhoods? The South Side has a good amount, but I rarely see any on the West Side." Yeah, this they be biased on Black Chicago, man. I don't know why they be trying to invest so much into the South Side and Southeast Side, but it's probably due to a lot of fact that it's a lot more white folks moving that way, and or there's just pockets of like political and social wealth, or I guess people that matter, if you will. So I think that's why you see a lot more on the South Side. But King Drive is going crazy, and I do wish out west we sometimes ride up Lake, out to Austin, and then out to the Northwest side. And yeah, we got to push for more stuff on the West side. There is a group called Bike Lane Uprising or something like this. They do a lot of advocacy and pushes, and have been trying to get people to like adopt streets and take care of certain streets. So yeah, I would love to push more on that, because North Lawndale has a real big biking community. Shout out to one of my mentors, Oboyi, who runs an organization called Equiticity. Had been targeting and trying to work in North Lawndale, making sure they got bike shares and streets popping over there. So yeah, I'm gonna uplift that and keep trying to think about that. Shout out to out west, man. I Cool. So if y'all on Slido, I'm gonna hop into my little true falses. If you want to put your answer as after I say the question, that would be dope. So the first question, true or false, if you're on Slido right now, cycling during the pandemic is COVID proof. Is cycling during the pandemic COVID proof? True or false? Should get some of these responses. Okay, cool. I think I might. Cool. So as those roll in, I might answer another one of these questions. What else? What else? False. Oh, cool. Sick. All right. Yes, that's false. It's a myth. It's something I really want to believe in. Just like when everybody was talking about Black people can't get COVID, I really wished that could have been true or been the case. All right. Second, we all will have to start riding bikes when the oil industry crashes. Is that true or is that false? One of the homies has been like, "We gonna lose all access to oil. It's all gonna be a wrap." So as these roll in, let's see. True. Dang. All right. Yeah, I think that this is a wild thing to imagine. But as we are all not moving about every day, obviously we aren't using as much gas. We're not using as much oil. I'm sure y'all probably passed gas stations and seen how cheap and low the oil is, or the gas prices are. And the one speculation that people have is that the industry is going to crash. They're at a really bad moment where they're almost paying people to store the oil. They will pay you, you know what I'm saying, just to even take the oil. So one of my big homies, Taryn, has been saying this a lot, which is we should be in preparation for if we weren't able to have the same, access to gas and or oil. But the homie Chris Burnett just said that actually we have access to electric cars. So that's a good point. There's a lot of Teslas. There's a lot of hybrids and other stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think everybody's gonna have to ride bikes, but it could be a cool addition if you don't currently. Cause yeah, it might get more expensive or might get more harder to find. Third question. Average drivers spend 10K a year owning a car, while bike riders spend 300. So again, I'm not. I actually do both. I'm a recent car owner, and I also ride a bike. But for the majority of the time, I'm just trying to lessen the amount of times I'm driving in a car. Um, but no shade to anybody that got the bread to have a car and or needs a car to do what they do. Cool. Got some truths. Um, as a bike rider, you should wear bright colors and use hand signals when riding around to alert drivers. True or false? Yeah, that's the obvious one. I got bored with these questions. I was just throwing random stuff in there. Okay, next question. Divi yearly membership is free right now due to the pandemic. Is the Divi yearly membership free? Cool. The homie Anonymous uh, uh, said that no, isn't it $50? But yes, 50. It's a good time. You know what I'm saying? $50 is a lot cheaper than what it had been. And if you don't use it, you might know some young people that might use it, or you might know some essential workers that need to get to and from work. So this question is false. It is actually $50. But again, I still feel like it's a good investment. And that will allow you to use as many times as you want for a whole year. Uh, the last question I have on here is there is mutual aid programs going on that could use more bike deliverers right now. And while I'm at it, I want to plug SocialWorks. Thank you for this opportunity to come talk my little smack. And this uh, whole series of workshops is primarily put together to raise money for CPS students that did not get a chance to experience prom. So this is going to be a fundraiser put together for them. I work with a lot of young people in Chicago, and I think being also a native Chicagoan, man, prom is important. We do prom big, and it does suck to see that you all won't be able to celebrate um, during this time. But if you can, and then you are watching this stream, make sure to go check out that link and donate to the Social Works Prom Fund, as well as a lot of these workshop series that will then go on to the Social Works YouTube. Um, so that's my little plugger. I got response to the sixth question, which says that this is true. This is true. Yes, there are a lot of mutual aid initiatives going on around the city. I feel like I'm learning about them every day. Uh, uh, the journalist Charles Preston, in particular, for his 30th birthday, put out a list of a bunch of people, who have bunch of organizations who have been doing work for forever, and in particularly, I'm sure right now could also use more support. A few on those lists, in particular, that I know about, that are also whether putting together care packages or they're putting together essentials or cleaning supplies or groceries. A lot of these organizations have been looking for more delivery people. So whenever I get a chance, I've been trying to also make sure to go pull up. Of course, in the car, you can knock out way more at a time. But if you got a bike, and you are able to contribute, yeah, pull up. One other question, as we got a few more minutes here, was how many gears should you get while purchasing a bike to take a long ride? Um, I would say that you can do a long ride on a single speed. I don't think you need a bike with gears. For me, I ride a bike that has gears, and I find it really helpful in terms of my energy expenditure, I guess, to have the ability to switch gears. Oftentimes, we live in a pretty flat city, so you won't find yourself having to, click down on gears. But if I come up on a bridge or if I come up on some type of a hill or whatever that might be, having gears in those moments is helpful. And in particular, I'd be going kind of far uh, sometimes, and it helps me keep my cadence, as you would call it. So making sure that I'm putting as much into my pedaling, and using my full motion if possible. So I like gears. Not everybody needs them. A lot of the first bikes I rode with single speeds, and I know a lot of people that get around. Their couriers, their bike messengers, whatever it might be, all on a single speed. What is the best time to bike in the city? Sometimes it gets hectic. For sure, early mornings. Early mornings is a fire time. The city's mad quiet. The sun is just getting up. Some of my favorite rides, when we go out and do centuries, as they call them, which is 100 miles. We would, wake up at like 5, wake up at like 6, and you not only do you get to catch the sunrise, it's really beautiful, but you also get to catch the city in a really quiet moment. Colleen in the Bike Manifesto mentions that also you should always avoid rush hours, because that is when motorists are usually the most angry. And if you can, yeah, just try and avoid those rush hours when the streets are too crowded. My boy Leak, what up, Malik? Said better bike paths through parks, cemeteries, or the streets. Um, hmm. Yo, all the best bike paths are actually not in Chicago. If you leave, um, going, you can take the lake path south, and it will take you on this trail past Wolf Lake, as they call it, and over into Indiana. That's my favorite. That's my favorite path. You see a lot of parks. You see a lot of nature. I'm from South Shore, so even just going past 79th on South Shore Drive, or all of that looks really completely different. They're like developing a lot of that area, even over by where the steel mills and other stuff like that. So those are probably my favorite paths. My boy Leak also said, what kind of bikes can be used for those who may not be able-bodied to ride the route might out? Yo, I would have to Google this question. I don't know what those bikes are called. I just know that you can pedal them, um, and not the traditional bike way that we know it. So some of them pedal with your hands. Some of them might be propelled by. Mainly, I've seen with the hands though. Those I think I wish I knew what this bike was called off top, but um, I'm gonna try and post it to the page with the homies. Um, uh, the prize on Instagram says centuries. Do you have bud pads? Physically, this is a lot. Agreed. I had to build my way up. I think there was a time when I thought just biking downtown was a challenge and was hard. But then I realized, every time you build some resistance and you can go even harder, even further. So yeah, they call them like chamois shorts. My homie DJ Fish, who is the youth instructor at Blackstone Bicycle Works, showed me these shorts, as well as there's also some type of like a pomade or whatever that you can use that's helpful. So the homie Chris Burnett Also shouted out Comrade. Yeah, shout out Comrade and shout out to the history of cooperative bike shops. That also is like rooted in like mutual aid ideas of trying to, just create cooperatives where all of the workers have a stake in the work that they're doing, and they're not being exploited. They're making, living wages, as well as a lot of those people are super awesome, do a lot of work out, even outside of the retail space. So shout out to that tradition of all those bike shops. There's a really cool list of all of the bike shops around the country that I think. Ooh, shout out to Emma in the clutch. The homie Emma Perez said they're called adaptive bikes. I did not know that, and I'm grateful that you put that little spiel in there. Shout out to the research. So one last plugger. Two Wheel Gods is a very cool from the grassroots organization put together by a bunch of people who are from this city, represent different, parts of the city, but all kind of come together under this one guise of trying to get more Black and brown people riding bikes. Obviously, it's not the solution to all our problems, but I find it to be super fun, and I'm excited for all the people involved in that project to show some of the stuff they've been working on. Coming up, we have some bike mechanics courses that you can opt into via Zoom. Where we'll be teaching people how to do bike mechanics on their own if you don't want to interface with bike shops right now. Also going to be trying to give out tools. So we might have a fundraiser coming up, soon, as well as we'll be putting out the list of all the bike shops mentioned, and we'll also be putting out some of our favorite routes. My boy Peter Cottontail said, "Can we start a bike gang?" Man, we already a bike gang. I love seeing everybody out and about, man, and I hope to, one day also get the chance to ride collectively again, ride in groups again, because that's really my you dig. So yeah, man, grateful to everybody tune in, listen to me ramble, talk my little smack this morning. I got this little bike, you feel me, that my OG got, and I'll plug my other one homie. 80 the plug is a young mechanic in the city of Chicago who has a mobile bike mechanic business. So he will pull up on you and fix your bike. Again, I can plug his @ on the To a God page, but it's 80 the plug and DA the plug. But I think that's our time shortly. And yeah, I hope all of y'all have a beautiful day. It's really sunny out, and thank you for joining us this morning. One last shout out to the donation link for SocialWorks, the SocialWorks Prom Fund.
SWorkshop, everyone put it in their hands. You know it's a vibe, they're waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together, we feeling like fam. It's all about peace, so pull up with fans. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. SWorkshop, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. And SWorkshop, what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works, social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, but we call it Works. Action on Taylor, the killer verses. I doing my film, my city hurt. They killing our babies, this work going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Private schools for the kids. We the city, every lady. All I know is it's work. With the heart, keep it busy. Know the life can be tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. SWorkshop handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works.
Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't finna none. We came in the party, we here for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Sky's the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, SWork, do your thing. SWork, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. SWork, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. SWork, show some love.
Social works, social